And good evening, and welcome to RECON Radio Ministries. I'm your host, Mark Farr, and let me get that. That's a great love song. I love that. That's from a era of when music was music, where you could understand the lyrics. You didn't have to hide it from your kids, and everybody could enjoy it. And man, how times have changed. Holy cow. I tell you, Jason and Barry and I were talking about some music today, just in general, nothing specific, and it is amazing from my generation even to theirs. I'm a little bit older than they are, not terribly so, but a little bit. And the stuff that qualifies as music these days wouldn't have qualified much more than noise in my generation. This stuff is mind-boggling. I don't get it. And we're going to spend some time on that subject today about Christian music. What is it, what it can be, and what it is not. So that is something that's near and dear to my heart. I hope you guys are having a good evening tonight. I had a really good show last night with with Barry, I should say. Jason couldn't make it. We had some phone connectivity problems and tried to get him on during the show at least half a dozen times, and finally we just had to give up. There was something that just wasn't right in the connection. So sorry about that, Jason, if you're listening in, man. We tried, we tried. So anyway, we hope you are being blessed this evening. Hopefully you had a great day today. And I'm going to spend a little time on another subject. And I'll get to that in a few minutes. But I tell you, I hope you guys have been following what's going on in the world, because, wow, there is so much wrong. It is an understatement. The idea that the media outlets today actually are news reporters is an idea that I believe has gone by the wayside and has for many, many years. In fact, some people actually in my generation believe that the last news people that you could trust were people like David Brinkley, Walter Cronkite, those type of journalists, because that was really great journalism that they did. I grew up in the era of Watergate and to the close of the Vietnam War and all that jazz. And I tell you, what the media has done to itself should be illegal. They disregard stories for political correctness' sake, and they will charge ahead with the story and not even know all the details, nor have they double back and check their facts. And this has led to some pretty serious problems. And when you look back on media by itself, I mean, even what we're doing today, even this is considered media by some people's standards. I don't. I look at it as ministry, but I guess we're on the radio, we're on the internet radio, we're actually on a few stations. And this is just something that is amazing to me, that pretty much anybody with the right amount of software or hardware can have their own radio station, where before you had an investment of tens of thousands of dollars in this. In fact, it reminds me of a little mom and pop radio station just across the border in Illinois from Indiana. And these guys ran, I think they ran about 15 hours worth of programming a day. And in the evening at 7, 8 o'clock at night, they would actually sign off the air, which is something you don't hear of these days. I mean, you just don't. People just do not sign off the air these days, and especially in the days of 24-hour news. You know, the problem is, what news are you hearing? I mean, after a while, I remember being in the hospital one time, and I can't remember who I was watching, Fox, CNN, somebody. And the repetitiveness of the stories was absolutely mind-blowing. Nurse, some more pain medicine, please. Just so I could sleep, just so, turn the thing off. I mean, it was just ridiculous. This stuff is scary. And what's even more scary is the fact, and I want you to listen to this very closely. What's even more scary is the fact that, do we truly have a free press? Some say yes, some say no. I'm somewhere in between. I think there is too many backdoor deals, too many shenanigans going on, especially with this administration. And this is a program about family, religions, and stuff, but this falls into the apologetic work that they are purposely trying to sway the American public, and the world for that matter, sway their viewpoint on specific issues like abortion, like Obamacare. In fact, if you've been following the news, there's a company in the United States called Hobby Lobby. And Hobby Lobby is basically, they cater to the hobbyist. If you like to build model airplanes, they got model airplanes. If you like to work with wood, they've got all sorts of wood. You like to build gliders, they have enough balsa wood to float a small battleship. I mean, they've got all sorts of things in there. Things for the home, things for the office. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. I love it. Well, Hobby Lobby was founded by a family that believes in God. They believe in the Bible, that the Bible is the Word of God. They're Christian people. And as such, when Obamacare went into law and all the other stuff that goes with it, the Obamacare law states that employers have to cover the cost of contraceptives to their employees. Hobby Lobby disagrees with that on religious grounds and said, we're not going to do that. Washington said, yes, you are. The owners of Hobby Lobby said, no, we're not. Well, a lawsuit ensued. Well, this thing has ran through, I forget how many courts so far, and it actually was heard at the Supreme Court today. This is the most prominent case of pitting some of America's religious rights against the edicts, against the commands, if you will, of a political establishment. To me, there is absolutely no reason that Hobby Lobby should be forced to violate their Christian principles. They are a Christian company, and they believe that they are on solid footing, as does most of America, believe it or not. to force a company to do something that's against its core values should be illegal. It's also against, I believe, it's unconstitutional. We're going to see. This will be a fight. The Supreme Court has it. How they rule will determine, I believe, not just the fate of companies like Hobby Lobby. I believe that it will determine the fate, to a large degree, of America. The Supreme Court will rule, in their ruling, whether or not we are still a free people. It is that important, because when the government says you must do something, and it is against your core religious grounds, there's an issue there. Can the government do this? Do they have the right to force you to violate your religious standards? We know that in some lower cases, in some other cases that have been heard by lesser courts, I just mean lesser courts as far as the stratification level of how things work in the legal system. There is a couple that had a bakery and were forced by the judge to bake a cake for a gay couple for their wedding. And it goes back to this very simplistic, very easy to understand statement. The Defense of Marriage Act is being overturned state by state, it seems like. In suing this small business owner, this is not about equal rights. This is about special rights. But if you're a Christian, you have no rights. If I own a business and I'm making donuts, and the local Glad group comes in and they want to order some donuts, I'll probably sell them. I would sell them to them. But if they wanted me to carry their party for them, no. I couldn't do that. I disagree with their stand on biblical principles. It would be against my religious views to sell them my donuts. I wouldn't do it. I would get sued, and depending upon what state you're in, depending upon what jurisdiction you're in, they could either do one of two things. Tell me that it's alright, it's against your religious principles, that stands, that has standard, that has standing in the legal process, and we cannot force you to do that. Or they could say, Mr. Farmer, we are ordering you to make 370 dozen donuts for this meeting that they're having. Now, here's the rub. If the government says that Hobby Lobby has to provide contraceptives, or I think the key thing in their argument was the day after pill. It's a pill that aborts any fetus that may be growing due to a pregnancy. I would be a part of abortion if that would be the mandate. And at that point in time, we will know without a doubt whether or not we live in a free nation. Now some people will say, well, you're blowing this out of proportion. No, I'm not. I do not believe that for a second. Because whenever the government tells me to do something that's against my religious rights, as a Christian, as a follower of Jesus Christ, we cease to live in a free society. It's that simple. I like simple. Simple works with me. I'm not the brightest light bulb in the box, but simple works for me. You don't have to be someone who can speak with great degrees of eloquence and all that jazz. It's a pretty simple fact. If you order me to do something that's against my religious belief, which is guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States, in which my father fought a war to help protect. Many of you have had veterans that have fought for you as well, in your family. Then it takes the Religious Liberty Clause and basically scratches it out. This nation was formed on religious principles. Now the left doesn't want you to believe that. They would rather have you believe that, oh well, just some people came in and they were, they were just there and they just kind of floated across the ocean just because this new country is here. Nonsense. They were fleeing religious persecution. And if the Supreme Court orders Hobby Lobby to provide for these contraceptives in direct violation of the United States Constitution, we will no longer live in a free country. And I personally believe that will start. You think the Obama administration has hurt us, and they have. But every nation that has fallen from within. So the idea here is very, very plain and very, very simple. We have kicked God out of our schools. We have kicked God out of the playground. We have kicked God out of our judicial system. We have kicked God out of politics. And God says, okay, you think you can do it on your own? Sorry, that's a 1020 coming through. We live about 300 yards from a train track. And but the idea here is very, very clear. It's crystal clear to me. I hope it's crystal clear to you. Because these things are very, very important. And I think there is a specific reason that in prophecy, and people can debate this a great degree, and I understand that, but I really believe there is a specific reason that the United States is not mentioned. Because either A, we will not exist, or B, we have become such a non-player on the world stage that, well, we won't matter anymore. And that's scary. We will see how this plays out. And I truly hope that it comes down the line of the Constitution. I hope. But wow. We are really, really at a crossroads here, folks. we have to understand, too, that being a Christian does not mean being a wimp. Being a Christian means to stand up for what's right, to voice our opinion, to show others a better way, and that's the way of Jesus Christ. And yet, it is beyond a doubt the most wonderful relationship that a person can have, and that is the relationship with Jesus Christ. Yeshua HaMashiach, which is Jesus the Messiah in Jewish, in Hebrew, I should say. One other thing I want to kind of move along. One other thing that I believe is very, very important for us to understand. We have lost a certain innocence in this nation and around the world. But one of the things that's most important to me is, of course, proclaiming the name of Jesus Christ, preaching His Word, teaching, helping those less fortunate up. Because I will guarantee you, unless you're a multi-millionaire, there are very few people that can actually say that for the next 4 or 5 months that they could live off their savings. The vast majority of people live paycheck to paycheck. But it's amazing to me how the ones you love the most, how Satan can sift them and turn them and hurt you with them. I'm not going to get into all the details, but it's very, very clear that as God grants the increase, as God moves us forward, as ministries start, as things start to develop, things happen. And as things happen, it is nothing more than Satan trying to put a stop to the work of God. Like I said, I can't get into the details specifically, but I know this. I know that anytime a work is started, anytime, you paint a great, big, huge X on your back. And I want you to imagine in your mind's eye 1 million people all lined up on a white line, their toes just exactly on this white line. And this line goes on for miles, hundreds of miles. And then one person takes one step out. Pretty noticeable, isn't it? Especially at certain vantage points. Now, if you're looking at them dead on, probably not. If you're looking at them from an angle, oh yeah. Do you think that Satan doesn't know who you are? He doesn't know your family. He doesn't know your loved ones. You think that. If you don't think that, frankly, well, to be bold about it, you're a fool. Of course he knows. So what does he do? He knows that a direct attack against you will not work. You are on fire for God. You're doing something for the Lord. So what does he do? He will follow your people. He will follow your loved ones. And he will take the weakest of the weak and put them in this situation, and before you know it, this bonfire starts, if you will, to redirect your attention to it, to take your attention off the goals that God has given you, or a mission that God has given you, or a ministry that God has given you. It has happened every single time. Which means, must be doing something for the Lord. That's a great thing. It also means that people are hurting in your family that shouldn't be. But, and I've said this for years now, I developed a couple sermons around this, that you can be a Christian, Satan's fine with that. Oh, absolutely, he's fine with that. You can go to church, give your money, but if that's all you do, he is absolutely content with your life. Why? Because you are not reaching other people with the gospel. You are not stepping out in faith, and you are not getting the increase that God has for you because you're not doing anything. You're sitting there in the pew. God did not call us to sit in the pew. Did he? I'm looking at about 8 or 9 Bibles here, and I still have yet to find that one. Thou must sitteth in the pew for the rest of your life. Don't see anywhere in Scripture where it says that. And again, Satan knows if he comes against you, you know how to rebuke him. You know how to take care of that. So what's he do? He creates this diversion on both sides of you or behind you and tries to get you to step back in that line. Sit down in that pew and do nothing. I'm not alone in this. There are things going on in my life that's happening with right this very second. I know other brothers of mine who are going through the exact same thing. Different players, different events, but it's the same thing. Here's the beauty of it, though. Here's the beautiful part of this. If you're going through a trial, if you're going through a test, that means one of two things. One, God just doesn't test us just to test us. Satan will come against us when we start doing something for God. If we just sit down and do nothing, he is absolutely pleased with our progress. Second thing is, where is he going to attack you at? He's not going to do a frontal attack, easily repelled. Flank attack, easily repelled. He's going to do his darndest to get behind you and to hit you in a place that you never expected. One that will take you away from your calling. one that will take away from your ministry, and that is he will toy with those you love. You don't think that's possible? Well, I tell you what. Do something for the Lord, and then see how it works. I mean, really get on fire and see how it works. I tell you, it's happened every time in my life without fail. How do we beat it? Prayer is the most absolute thing that we can do. And keep on moving forward. We don't give up. Yes, it hurts us. Yes, people are hurting. Yes, things are happening. We don't give up. God will take care. Yes, we pray for those people, but God will take care of the situation. We ask for God's intervention. We ask that God would put His hand on those people and calm them and move forward with them and let them see what's going on, what's really going on, to open their eyes. You talk about doing a happy dance when people realize that and they tell you, hey, you know what, I think Satan was using me a little bit here, and man, I'm sorry about that. Oh man, you talk about having church. What a beautiful thing to happen. But and I'm urging you, if you are going through this, don't get mad. Hard to, I know. But don't get mad. But sit and listen for that still small voice. For that voice that tells you, it's okay. I've got this. You keep doing what you're doing, and I will grant you the increase in due time, in my time. Trust me. I tell you, God will do it. He will take care of business. And there is nothing better than to seeing people come to that realization that there is such a wonderful, wonderful experience as forgiveness and repentance. Now to kind of the main subject, if you will, for tonight's program, and that's Christian music. You know, many of you know, if you follow this program at all, you know that I grew up Roman Catholic, out of the Diocese of Toledo, Ohio. My brother actually went to the seminary at Perrysburg. He was thinking about becoming a priest, until he found out priests couldn't be married and everything else. That ended quickly. So the idea here is that Christian music has been a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I'm trying to decide if it's a revelation. I don't think it is. I think it's a gift. Because one of the things that we see in, like, the book of Psalms, it's a wonderful, just a wonderful truth here. Psalm 44 is probably one of my favorite ones here. And that is, O God, we have heard with our ears, our fathers have told us what deeds you performed in their days, in the days of old. With your own hand drove out the nations, but them you planted. You afflicted the peoples, but them you set free. For not by their own sword did they win the land, nor did their own arm save them, but your right hand and your arm in the light of your face, for you delighted in them. You are my King, O God. Ordain salvation for Jacob. Through you we push down our foes, though your name we tread down, or through your name we tread down those who rise up against us. For not in my bow do I trust, nor can my sword save me. We know that David wrote some beautiful, beautiful songs. And what did he have? He had basically what we would say a lyre or a harp. Lyre, that's L-Y-R-E. And these were stringed instruments that could be tuned. They were very, very crude. And yet the music that they produced was wonderful. Do we have any copies of that today? Of course not. But we do have David's Psalms, which literally means songs. We know that some of the songs were meant to be read, some were meant to be played with a lyre, a harp, a flute, something along that line. They had drums back then. They had, you can't say they had a full 88-pit orchestra. They didn't have that. But they did have some form of brass, trumpets, and drums, percussion, and they had stringed instruments, and they had the makings of woodwinds. And these things were very, very crude, and yet over time they were able to get them better in tune, do more things with them, and then music exploded during the Middle Ages. And I mean literally exploded. It was just, some of the writers that came out of there were absolutely fabulous. And yet, the vast majority of the music, early music, was festival music and religious music. That was pretty much it. Then fast forward a little bit up to 1700s, 1800s. You get Wesley, Charles Wesley writing his music. You get Luther in the 1500s wrote some music. And these things combined into the hymnals that we have today. Hey, have you ever thought about that? The hymnals of today are just, they're beautiful. Sorry, I thought I had one right here, but I had to move. And the prayers that came through hymns, just look at the hymn Amazing Grace. We all know that one. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. How can we, as people, discount music so easily? Well, we can't. Because it is a beautiful, beautiful, and I think ordained words. Listen to the words of this song, and this goes back to 1530-ish. A mighty fortress is our God, a bulwark never failing. Our helper he, amid the flood of mortal ills prevailing. For still our ancient foe does seek to work us woe. His craft and power are great, and armed with cruel hate, on earth is not his equal. And I love this third verse. And though this world with devils filled should threaten to undo us, we will not fear, for God hath willed his truth to triumph through us. The prince of darkness grim, we tremble, not for him. His rage we can endure, for lo, his doom is sure. One little word shall fell him. The story here with Luther, that little word was, and I'm not sure how much of this is hyperbole, and how much this is truth, but the story goes that Martin Luther was being chased by proponents of the Catholic Church that basically put a death sentence on his head by excommunicating him. Forget the person that killed him would receive so many thousands of lira, Italian dollars. And the idea here is Luther had to be moved from castle to castle, literally at night. Hardly slept in the same bed 2 nights in a row, because they were worried that the assassins would come and sneak in and kill him. And the story goes is that Satan himself appeared to Luther to scare him, to frighten him, to make him tremble. And all Luther saw him, and literally just said, Jesus Christ, and rolled over and went to sleep. And Satan left. I think it's a wonderful story. I'm not sure how true it is, but I believe it because it is one of those beautiful stories, I think, that came out of that age. When we look, I'm just kind of paging through a hymnal right now. How firm a foundation the Son of God goes forth to war. There is a name I love to hear. O Master, let me walk with thee. Sweetly resting, take my life and let it be higher ground. A blessing and prayer near the cross. Open my eyes that I may see, sitting at the feet of Jesus, a closer walk with thee. Love divine, but worship the King. These are beautiful hymns of the faith. Sweet hour of prayer. Love that one. Arise, my soul, arise. And I could go on for hours about this, but when we look at Christian music as it was in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. There was a great amount of security in the hymnals. Today we have denominations that are taking out any references to the blood of Jesus Christ, taking references out to anything to do with the cross of Christ because they may offend somebody. Well, the cross does offend. The cross offends me. Why? Because every time I see it, I'm reminded of the sin that I committed that made Jesus go to that cross. And yet I love that cross. Because it is the cross it is the blood that saves us. It is the instrument of death that Jesus died, but He died on a mission to save mankind. And what's He ask in return? Faith. Living for Him. Telling others about Him. Pretty simple. And yet it's the hardest thing you'll ever do. And so Christian music in the mid-80s, I remember there was a explosion of Amy Grant, Dallas Holmes. Oh my word. Can't think of his name off the top of my head. But, I mean, there was an explosion of Christian music that came out of the 80s and 90s that still, even today's stuff is I mean, it's okay. There's some very touching, very moving songs. And they're all about praising God, and that's wonderful. And each of us has our own likes and dislikes. But when you take a specific thing of music and you put words, I've written a few songs in my life. I wrote a song for my wife and I for our wedding. And you take this stuff and you apply it, and you can't understand the lyrics, and the lyrics give the label a PG rating. What are we doing? Have we somewhat lost the way? I mean, you know, I looked at something on Facebook tonight. It said something like, "I'm being really serious. Your music really is terrible." And P.S. Pull up your pants. But the old adage here is this: if you can't understand it, it's not music; it's noise. Now, this really hard Christian metal stuff, that appeals to a specific audience. It's not my flavor. Don't really care for it. But can I call it unchristian? Not really. You know, because I disagree with the way it's being sung. But I can tell you this. I can tell you that, you know, we need to be very careful with what we listen to. Jason and Barry were talking about that one of the guys in the group Megadeth, which was, if you're a child of the 80s, 90s, you know who Megadeth is. Just a wild band. I mean, wild. Very hard, very heavy, very dark stuff. one of the, I think it's the lead vocalist for them, actually became a Christian, and they're actually doing some work that's actually posting some of Revelations into their music. And you know what? I applaud that all day long. There's a guy was with Creedence Clearwater Revival, CCR. Those of you who remember them, you're probably around my age. And his name was Mark Farner, Farner. I had a vice president of a company I worked for, could not keep his name and my name separated for any amount of respect. He became a Christian and is now soloing, has his own solo act, and is praising God and leading people to the Lord, and I think that's great. And you know, just like the music that I play at the beginning of my my opening, it's a love song. If you look it up, it's done by the group Chicago. There's a couple born again believers in there, not all of them, but at least 2 or 3 of them that I know of. The song called Question 67 and 68, and I mean that goes back quite a ways. I was just a small boy when I heard the music and fell in love with them. And some of the stuff they do is good. I mean, there's some really great songs that they've done. Really great love ballads. And I love that genre of music. Does that mean that it's bad? No. Now, a steady diet of anything is wrong, is bad for you. And why is it, too, that one of the hardest things to do, so I've been a minister of music in a church or two, one of the hardest things to do is to kind of incorporate traditional with contemporary Christian music. I actually had an older gentleman, I'm sure he's with the Lord now, but in Georgia made the statement, there's no such thing as contemporary Christian music. It's either in the hymnal or it doesn't belong in the church. Well, you can't really say that. You know, I agree with the sentiment behind it, because not all music was, in fact, sorry, I had like 3 thoughts hit me at once. Not all music belongs in the church, that's clearly obvious. But there are some songs that are obviously in our hymnal because they glorify God. And all the music that I sing, I won't say all, but a good portion of the music that I sing comes from about the mid to late 80s on up to about 97, 98, somewhere in that 10-year time frame. Because the stuff that I like to sing about are songs that make you think. They're songs that go through and do some, that will cause you to take pause, and they may be telling a story, or they may be speaking something to a person's heart about just walking with the Lord. And I love to do that stuff, and don't get a chance to as much as I used to, but I tell you, I still love to do it. So I guess what I'm saying is this: let the hearer beware. There's even things, even a couple songs in the hymnal that you could take and go, wait a minute, what's the theology behind it? You know, not every song, obviously, but there's one or two. There's a song a friend of mine used to dare me when I was minister of music. He'd be in the congregation, and he would somewhat raise his hand a little bit and then pull it down, raise his hand, because I knew he was going to try to have me sing. And I still remember the numbers. Number 20 in the Baptist hymnal was called God of Earth and Outer Space. Really weird hymn, but be that as it may. So not only am I asking this to help you, but also to help those who lead the music program in your church. Give them a thank you. If they're doing a good job, and I mean heartfelt, not just, hey, I appreciate this song, thanks, but truly thank them if you really appreciate what they're doing. Because it's hard work getting different songs for different services, basically at least 3 services a week, if not more, and helping out with this and doing the choir and trying to get a cantata put together and picking out specials and picking out who's going to sing what when. It's a lot of work. And trust me, I've done it all, and in that regard, it is a lot of work. So you need to really go up to them, give them a thank you, and say, I really appreciate what you're doing. Really feel God moving through the music, because God can use the music to touch a person's heart. I know that firsthand. The very first song, because I did vocals for a band, kind of a garage band, if you will, but we did shows up in the Ohio area when I was a teenager and young adult. And I used to do lead vocals. And so when I became a Christian, singing was not that difficult of a problem. And I still remember the very first song that I sung at our Christmas show. And 3 or 4 people came down the altar. And I'm a new Christian, maybe 6 months at this time, maybe 7. And I'm just starting to get the, why they come down, just like I did, that type of thing. And they said that they came down because they heard God speaking through the music. And you know what? That absolutely just blessed my heart. And something that blesses my heart is you guys. I appreciate you listening in. Didn't see too many people in the chat room tonight. If you want to get on board with this, just go to WTVOradio.com. It's on the left-hand side. You'll find RECON Ministries. Click on that tab. It'll bring up my page on WTVO. Click the Listen Live button, and it will open up a new page. And in there, you'll have a thing. Just hit the play button, and should be good to go. And there's the 11 o'clock. It's actually on time for once. Give me just a second. Alright, there we go. And we really appreciate that. You can also reach us at RECON at ReconRadioMinistries@gmail.com. I certainly would appreciate some feedback on the program. Good, bad, indifferent, doesn't matter. But I certainly would appreciate that. And most important of all, appreciate you guys. And if you have any prayer requests or anything like that, you can reach me at RECON Radio Ministries on Facebook and RECON Radio Ministries on Twitter. So it's amazing to me how quickly an hour goes by. But I tell you, certainly do appreciate you guys being a part of this. It is always a joy to have you on board. Again, talk to your minister of music and let him know or her know that they're appreciated. And with that, you guys have a really, really great evening, and I hope you have a very, very blessed week. We'll see you next week. Thank you. Good night.